Greetings and welcome to Brežice. Today we are going on a journey along the path of love, discovering love stories in Brežice. Brežice is a town at the confluence of the worlds. It's a town with rich history that dates all the way back to the antique times and to the 12th century when the town became a regional center as we know it today. This is proven by the streets, the remains of the walls and other traces of the past, which we will visit today and discover hidden love stories. During the summer, it's very relaxing to cool down in the shade of the mighty trees, many of which we can find in the town park. Some of them have already been here for 200 years, when the noble family Patems seeded them. It was designed after the park at Patricija Castle, which is not far from here. At first, the castle park was fenced off so that only members of the castle could access it. After the First World War, all locals and tourists could access the park. Brežice lies at the confluence of two Slovenian rivers. The first is Slovenian longest river, the Sava, and the second is the longest river that flows only through Slovenia, the Krka. The river Sava mostly has been very important throughout history. On the one hand, as a border between two countries, Krajinska and Štajerska, and today when the locals cross the bridge, we still say that we go to Krajinska and vice versa. But Sava not only demarcated, but also connected. It was an important waterway in the 18th and 19th centuries before the construction of the railway in 1862. On the river they transported oil, grains, salt and even mail for some time. Rafters also transported wood, and the rafting activity is still remembered today by the hotel Splavar in Brežice, the Rafters pub. But we are here today because of the reinforced concrete bridge in front of us, which was built after the Austro-Hungarian Emperor Franz Joseph I's orders. It was completed in a record time of 1 year in 1906. Majority of the work was done by hand. It is fascinating that it was at the time of construction the third longest bridge in Austro-Hungary. Up to the World War II, the use of the bridge wasn't free, as there was a person in charge for collecting the bridge toll, even for prams, pollarty or wheelbarrows. It was precisely decided what price has to be paid in order to cross the bridge. During the World War II, the Germans occupied the town and took control of the bridge, where they set up a guardhouse for controlling people. But there is also a story about a courageous love for the hometown of Brežice from the time of the German occupation. When the war was coming to an end, the German soldiers wanted to blow up the reinforced concrete bridge over the Sava and the Krka. They didn't succeed because they had to move away quickly from the partisans. Following the Germans, Ustaches, who had explosives for demolishing the bridge already prepared, also had to run from the partisans. Their plans were thwarted by the brave mayor of Brežice at that time, Henrik Klabučar, who removed the explosives and saved the bridge, which has been preserved to this day when we are the ones seeing it. So, one more fascinating story about the bridge is that a famous actor, Jackie Chan, shot a movie on it, and that happened in 1986, and he was driving over the bridge with a car and motorbike, and this was during the film Good of Armor, and we will watch a short video from this movie now.
कमाल कर दिया, पीछे लगे वो। अब क्या करें?
भरोसा रखो।
मजाक करते हो? पकड़ के बैठो।
हाँ? पकड़ के बैठो?
इसे हमेशा अपने साथ रखता हूं।
If we were walking here in 12th century, we wouldn't see a building as we see it today, but a wooden fort, which was connected to the then settlement Brežice. In 1249, we can already find the first mention of the castle in written sources as Castrum Ran, which was then in the management of the people of Salzburg. Throughout history, the castle had many owners and changed, as well as relations with the surrounding subordinate peasant population. In year 1515, the peasants' dissatisfaction erupted into a national-wide peasant revolt, whose victim was also the former castle, which was burned along with the town. A few years later, in 1530, they removed the ruins and built a new one with 4 defense towers and 2 defense walls. A lot of money invested by the noblemen paid off, as the castle was able to repel the Croatian-Slovenian peasant revolt led by Ilya Gregorić years later. It also played a huge role in the defense against the Turkish invasion. The castle history also tells more pleasant stories. In the 17th century, the castle began getting its luxurious form. With special love, Count Ignaz Maria Adams and his wife, Maria Regina, designed it into a Baroque residence. They both shared a mutual love for all types of art. Since 1949, the Posavje Museum in Brežice is situated in the castle, and it is a home to many collections. Each of them tells its story. When you have a minute of free time, don't miss the chance to let the museum take you back to the history of the Posavje, time and place. The famous Knights Hall is a special part of Slovenia's treasure and the heart of Brežice Castle. When looking at the painted walls, you can experience the development of architecture from antique to Renaissance. On the ceiling, you can sail into the rich Greek-Roman mythology, where allegories of the 4 elements are present. In the ancient Greek philosophy, there are 4 basic ingredients of all things: air, fire, earth, and water. We started with the water source before at the bridge, and let's continue with it. The third act shows the dramatic scene from the legend of Pyramus and Thisbe. Do you know the story? No? Well, I'm sure that at the end you will recognize some parts of it. Pyramus and Thisbe were a boy and a girl who grew up next door. When they fell in love, their parents forbidden them to marry each other. But eventually they decided to run away. In order not to miss each other, they meet in the evening in front of a mulberry tree. Thisbe was the first to leave, but when she arrived to the mulberry, she saw a lioness in the distance. There was blood from slaughtered cattle on its muzzle. Thisbe ran away in fear to the nearest cave and lost her veil in the process. After the lioness quenched her thirst in the well, she tore Thisbe's veil with her bloody teeth. Pyramus, who left the home later, found the beast's footprints and the bloody veil. He picked it up and went under the mulberry tree. Thisbe wasn't there, so he assumed that the beast had torn her apart. He could not take comfort in his loss and felt guilty, so he stabbed himself, and his blood splattering the mulberry fruits. When Thisbe, still full of fear, returned to the agreed place, she found Pyramus half dead. She called for him, and he barely opened his eyes and then died. Thisbe saw the veil and realized what had happened. She felt guilty, and she stabbed herself too. In reminder of their story, the mulberry tree still has dark red fruits. Well, I believe that you recognized some parts of the story because this story later inspired William Shakespeare and he deciphered it in Romeo and Juliet. The memory of the ancient lovers faded precisely because of the later literary fame of Romeo and Juliet. But in our castle, in Brežice, in the Knight's Hall, the love story of Pyramus and Tisbe lives along with us. Brežice Krško field was an important granary and Slovenia's garden, since always the lord of the castle collected tites from his subjects. For these needs they built large granaries in towns where they kept the grain. The Brežice granary still stands today, and the current mighty building dates back to the beginning of the 18th century, while the original building was first mentioned in 1491. The owner of the castle was the noble family of Athens at the beginning of 19th century. Ignaz Count Athens, Styrian governor, built the granary that we see today. It is one of the most beautifully preserved castle granaries in Slovenia, and it's also included on the list of immovable cultural monuments of national importance. But apart from the actual building, we want to show love for food here. But why? Food holds us up, gives us energy for everything we want to do, and also tastes really good. And as we know, the saying goes that the way to the man's heart is through his stomach. Well, grains presented the basic food in the past, but not only for the people's menus, but also for Slovenians' autochthonous breed of pigs, as most know it, Krškopolje pigs. Those are black-belted pigs, and were developed here in Krško Brežice field. The speciality of the meat and its products from the Krškopolje pigs is better taste, juiciness, and aromatically of meat products and dishes. And now we also want to share a story about the braided hard bread, which is also connected to love story that was known in our area. A braided bread is a symbol of love between the bride and the groom as a solid community, fertility, prosperity, and happiness, and it was an indecipherable pastry at the time when there were no wedding cakes at weddings. So, on the cake there are figures of two birds representing larks in the field, common houseleek, ones on the thatched roofs, carnations on the windows, cornflowers, poppies, everything being from peasant life, and two rings. The actual braided bread represents braids that peasant wives and girls once before wore. That is something that tradition keeps on, and sometimes at the wedding there is still a braided hard bread present. And this one on this picture is actually from my wedding. Today this is the music school in Brežice, which had a much different role in the past. Here were the castle stables. They began build the town castle stables in the 16th century. The reshaping strongly obscured the original image of the interior. In the middle of the 19th century, they named the building the riding school, Reitschule. At that time, it was owned by a Brežice noble family, the Athens. Much love was born here, love for animals, horses. Have you known that one of the three autochthonous Slovenian horse breeds originates from Posavje? This is the Posavje horse, in addition to the Lipicaner and the Slovenian cold-blooded horse. Horses are noble animals that have good hearing. They use it to listen extremely well and express their mood. This is also necessary in love and music. Love for music and singing is born here today, which is the key to many hearts. When you hear the sound from the streets, the music is anchored deeply in the heart. Un coloroso benvenuto. Why Italian? Because in 1771, Leonardo del Cote moved from Italy to the beautiful building in front of you, and shortly after his arrival brought more commercial bustle to the town. The house of the family del Cote is one of the oldest houses in Brežice. The del Cote family was the richest and most prominent family in Brežice for a long time. In front of the house, in the cobblestones, you can see a special entrance to the Brežice underground. It is the entrance to the cellar or a large warehouse in which this well-known merchant family from Brežice used to store goods for many decades. However, the location of the house also tells us about a quite different flow of the Sava river, which was sometimes humped right under the houses on the backside. A handy port on the Sava was also located under the house of the del Cote family. Do you know how Brežice got its name? Because they were formed on the banks of the Sava river, which is in Slovenian called na Brežcu. So, na Brežcu, Brežice. And here, to you who can't go without love. The family del Cote tells a story about an 11-year-old Carlo who was playing with his neighbor Eugenia Potočnik, 10 years old, in the main street. There was an accident with a stone during the game which damaged Eugenia's tooth. Because Eugenia's beauty was severely damaged by a broken tooth, her parents were upset as she would not be able to marry well enough in the future. To this parents' anger, Carlo spontaneously responded saying that Eugenia would be his wife in any case, with or without a broken tooth. And you know what? They really did get married in 1877. Aristotle's saying is true here. Who is a friend? One soul inhabiting two bodies. And where did they get married? If we continue our journey down the street, we will quickly find the location, and that is St. Lawrence Church. The parish church of St. Lawrence is the successor of the original church, which was located almost opposite the current one, across the street on the river Sava's former bank. Brežice was hit by a great flood in 1781. The Sava washed away the cemetery and the foundations of the old parish church. They already started building St. Lawrence, that it is in front of you, in 1781, under the leadership of a master builder, John Nepomuk Fuchs. The church consists of a nave with a presbytery and includes elements of the late Baroque and Romanesque style. The entrance to it is supposed to be unusual, like some kind of a small extension. Look right at the top of the church. In order to get a good view at the decoration at the top, you may have to move a bit down the street. Archangel Gabriel is blowing the horn at the top of the bell tower. With their love for religion, the residents built a new church in which couples now vow eternal faithfulness in front of the God. And now, welcome at definitely the most identifiable point in our town. That's Water Tower, a magnificent tower. The second one can be admired in the northern part of Kranj. In the period 1914 till 1983, the interesting tower provided water to the center of the town. It is 46 meters high, circular shape, and its top there is a octagonal ending where the water reservoir was placed. Water Tower has become the symbol of Brežice, and Brežice municipality has it as a part of its official sign. Another well-maintained water tower in Slovenia is the one in Kranj. The exhibition set in the tower has been done by the Posavje Museum Brežice, which is registered as the first Slovenian museum in the global network of water museums supported by UNESCO. And now the story. Look up where you will notice a wooden decoration at the top of the tower. Water Tower has its own love story. The legend says that a nobleman or a businessman was visiting Brežice where he fell in love with a girl, and as a sign of his love he made an agreement with the then architect to put hearts around windows of the tower. A nicely shaped monument of technical heritage offers interactive experience about water, its supply and purpose. Whereas these hearts give additional meaning to these values and importance of good and accessible waters. Romantic, isn't it? As you can find out, love in all its shapes is hidden in all corners of Brežice. The town is full of love stories, but most of all, Brežice is a small town with a big heart where fronts of houses in the town center write stories about interesting history, culture, architecture, and life of the Brežice inhabitants. And I warmly invite you to visit it someday and enjoy love stories with us in Brežice.